I am really glad that everybody took some time this afternoon to join the call. Um, I did realize yesterday afternoon that it was scheduled for 2 hours. This will not go 2 hours. I guess I'm not sure why I did that, but I guess we run over a little bit an hour. We have some time. We don't get cut off. So uh, I think we're all used to these meetings now, since we have all worked virtual for the last several years. Special welcome to all of our members who are joining the call, as well as board members. FieldWatch currently has 17 board members representing four different distinct segments of agriculture. We have registrants, or the manufacturer group. We have applicators. We have crop producers and beekeepers. And then we have an industry at large group, which includes represented from a State Department of Agriculture, from Farm Bureau, some things that are outside of the other three. I would just ask that if any of you are interested in the future in helping support and getting more involved, and potentially a board member, to let us know, because we're always looking for people that have a vested interest in our success, very familiar with what we do, to serve on the board. So it continues to evolve over time. So first and foremost, thank you for your participation. Thank you for your membership, your financial support. We couldn't be here now in 2025 without your support. So what you'll see, some of the slides may look a little similar to last year, but a lot more updated. We have some new slides, new information. We're very excited about 2025. 2024 was a really good year for us in terms of growth. It continues the growth that we've had for the last 10 years in terms of new crops, new sites, and we expect that to continue to 2025. There isn't a lot of tools out there that are free in agriculture that can really help and make an impact. And so thus the title of our report, an impact report. So really want to extend a thank you also to Standing Partnership, our marketing firm in St. Louis that helped us put this together, as well as our technology partner in Lafayette, Indiana, Delmar Technologies, our software partner. So with that, let's see if I can advance the slide here. There we go. So what you'll see on here is our mission. The mission has not changed since we began. Our mission is to have an easy to use, reliable, accurate, secure online mapping tool that enhances communication. All of you that are on this meeting now know that and understand that and appreciate that. Often when you get outside of the scope of what we do or outside of FieldWatch, people may not understand that as much, but it really has to be a tool that's reliable and accurate, because otherwise it's not used and we just disregard it. So we pride ourselves on validating all the locations each year across our spectrum of beehive sites and crop sites. That is certainly in conjunction and partnership with our state partners, where we have somebody representing us in each state that validates that information. And you'll notice on here, right in the middle, I just changed this morning. I put North American Crop and Apiary Registry. That said national for the longest time, and we reference it as national. But I began to rethink that on Monday of this week, when the province of Manitoba signed a contract with us. So we now have Manitoba and Saskatchewan participating in Canada, and we expect here in the near future additional provinces to join. So we really have become a North American registry. We're nonprofit, as you know, supported by each of your member dues to help do what we do on a daily basis and support your pesticide applicators, your growers, your farmers in your individual states and provinces. It also, I think the thing that people don't realize also, that it's free and voluntary. I mean, you're not required to use the tool. It's also free. It's not free for people that want to use the data, as you know, but it is free for an applicator to check, for growers to map, their sites and locations and beekeepers. And that was one of the key principles when we founded FieldWatch years ago. And if you back up a little bit to that, when the tool was at DriftWatch, the tool was at Purdue University. It was free and voluntary at that time. So we continue to keep those tenets. We believe that's important. We believe that is really an affirmation of our success over the last several years because of those two things. And you'll see coming up on some of the growth that we have from beekeepers, and you'll see the little dialogue boxes that explain the numbers and things like that. But at the end of the day, we are continue to help enable sustainability at a local level by communicating information to your applicators that will minimize or get rid of impact of unintended spray drift. So, spray drift is going to happen whether it's from the air or on the ground. It's going to happen in a rural area as well as a suburban and urban area. And thus, that's why we've seen significant growth in all those areas, because it does happen. But when you have somebody that is aware of what's around them, it minimizes the impact. And we believe that our tool works to help support that cause. This is just an impact page. That's all it is. It shows you that there's a lot of things out there. There's a lot of sites. There's 60,000 sites spread across the United States, Canada. It looks very jumbled at this point in time, but it is a Google Map tool. So as you zoom in, as you use Google Maps, as all of you probably are familiar with it by using GPS to help you navigate to where you're going on a daily basis. This does the same thing. There's a plus and minus in the corner. You can zoom in, zoom out. The left-hand side of the map, if you really have not dove into it, you have all these toggles on the left-hand side that if you just want to look at organic crops, certified organic crops, you can click on that toggle. If you just want to look at the beehives, you can look on those. And that's what allows some flexibility to this tool for everybody to individualize it, because on the left, you can toggle down to what you really want to see at a local level. From a macro level where we're at today, it just looks overwhelming, especially in some of the states where all the red are. I mean, those are beehives. We allow mapping of beehives by both commercial as well as hobbyists. And what you will see is in the states that actually have a registry, what they use to register beekeepers, not for what we do, but to keep track of them, to communicate information about diseases and other issues they want to keep track of with beekeepers. We've marked those in red. The rest of them are in yellow. And each of those pins that's on there today, there's an alpha and an alpha character and there's a color. It's not a perfect system because there's a limitation of what you can do. You got purple G for grapes, you got a yellow B for beehive, a red T for tomatoes as you would zoom in and see it. And so each of you today could either look at this on your screen. I hope you don't bounce out of this presentation at this moment, but you can go to driftwatch.org, go to the map in your respective state or province, and you could zoom in to see what's around you, what crops, what beehives, etc. So this is just an impact to show this, because what you'll see over the next few minutes is how the growth has gotten to this point. And we expect this to continue. We don't see anything slowing down. And so we like to share this slide up front for everybody to see. So 2014, I was the first employee hired by FieldWatch at that time. And this is what we're doing. And I was hired at that point in time to help create awareness and help grow within each state in terms of building a relationship with Department of Agriculture, build a relationship with the Extension Service, the Farm Bureau organizations, the Agribusiness Association, the grower groups, to help populate the map and to get more applicators to use it. It started slow, but it continued. We grew and grew. We got momentum. So I think what you'll see here is that from very nominal beginning, just focused mostly in the the center of the United States, really. That's where it was. There's 12 states there, and the province of Saskatchewan. Just a little identification of the growth in just 5 years. I would say that I was personally responsible for all that, but that's probably not true. I had a lot of help in doing that. So, uh, but you can see the growth here. Expanded certainly more across the United States. We expanded out east, added California. Where in California we map beehive locations. We don't map crops there today, but we saw growth across the board, not only in states, but we saw growth in just numbers of users each year from then. Fast forward to where we're at today. So the map is getting more green. I mean, this is just an awesome thing for us to see over the years. When I started, I thought if we got to 20 states, maybe another province, that would probably be where we would top out. So we just added our second province, and we added our 27th state in the past 30 days. So Texas is reflected on there as the 2024. It actually came on board January 25. But since they have signed a contract, we have them on there. State of Washington joined us last year. And so we're excited to have the Northwest participate. There is absolutely a huge need in the Northwest for our tool. There are a lot of specialty crops. There are a lot of pollinators. And there's a lot of spraying that goes on out in the Northwest. So we believe that by using our tool will be a certain complement to everything that's being done out there by the Washington State Department of Agriculture and our partners out there. In the last 5 years, we also expanded to the little suburban area, Washington, D.C., 68 square miles there, our nation's capital. We map bees there. You really can't see it on this map. We'd have to zoom in a lot to see Washington, D.C. But on a daily basis, before they started mapping, they would have applicators come in from Virginia and Maryland, spray backyards, golf courses along roadsides, impacting pollinators and honeybees. So they approached us, and we started mapping. Washington DC probably has 400 to 500 beehives in that little area. It's kind of crazy how many they have there. A lot of them in backyards, top of garages, top of buildings, actually. There is enough forage in Washington, D.C. that there are just lots of bees out there. And their concern is, are the applicators that we're spraying along the roadside or spraying the backyards, golf course, et cetera. So that helped us kind of put our stamp on the map for rural as well as, urban as well as rural areas. So we were very excited when that came aboard. And you can see now that we have more population down there. Georgia joined us last year, West Virginia a couple of years ago. So as it continues to evolve, and the needs of each state are a little bit different in terms of why they choose to work with FieldWatch. At the end of the day, the common thing is they want to provide a technology that helps their stakeholders or their constituents at a state level. Our relationship for the most part is with the Department of Agriculture, the primary relationship, not in all states. Sometimes it's with the University Extension Service. So what you will see that evolves over time as it's more of a blended relationship across multiple organizations with the state, including the Agribusiness Association, which connects us then to the retailers and co-ops. The Extension Service connects us to the growers and the beekeepers, and certainly the Department of Ag, who has the responsibility on our behalf to validate locations and help keep things on the map and get them, as well as communicate to certain meetings and conferences, because we can't be everywhere in all these states. We would like to, but they are a key supporter from us. So we expect this map next year to be even more green. Of course, we really don't know. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, so let alone a year from tomorrow. But we expect that this continue to grow. So when you look at our states, and you can see we started doing this a couple years ago. my colleague Kurt Hadley had the idea of really providing a little bit more promotion to the individual states. So we pulled in their logos and we put them on the map. And so up in the left-hand corner, you will see your state and your logo. If we have it, if we don't have it, then it's not on the map yet. So, but you can see state of Washington, Georgia, West Virginia are all there on the right, and they added in the last few years, and we'll have Texas and Manitoba here probably in the next few weeks. But as I mentioned, the role within the state for us, the data steward, is absolutely essential to continue to keep awareness, to keep track of things, to grow the business, and let us know if there's an issue or a problem or there's some type of complaint with what we're doing. We aren't going to be able to solve all the problems. We don't, we are not the silver bullet for spray drift, but we do provide an important tool that helps answer the question sometimes for applicators. They check the weather, they'll check, what they're spraying. They know the field they're spraying in. They know how they're going to get there. The unknown question is what may be nearby, adjacent, or downwind from where you're spraying. And that's the answer we provide for those applicators before they spray. In the center, you'll see a couple of ads that we did. Again, this was in collaboration with the state of Illinois, not just with the state of Illinois, but the Illinois Fertilizer Chemical Association, with the Illinois Farm Bureau. We developed these ads, and we really want to replicate this. We want to take it to each of your states or provinces and have a partner that we can take these print ads and push them out either through the state or the province, push them out to the Agribusiness Association, the Farm Bureau, push them out through the aerial applicators. We had some radio ads in Illinois too. And in the years that we've done that, we've seen 10 to 15% growth just in Illinois because of awareness. So what usually happens, the challenge that we have as a small organization is that people love the tool and they don't use it unless they're aware of it. So for us, awareness is so important. It's so important to have partners, whether the manufacturers, the retailers, the states, to have a lot of partners and keep them updated and really ask them to create awareness for us. We are happy to provide content. We are happy to help, come up with a plan, but we really just need help in terms of the outreach. And in the middle, you'll see a couple of those ads that had, pretty big impact for a fairly small amount of money. But this really highlights our reach into multiple parts of agriculture within each state. Now, I really like this slide. We've had this slide in the past, but it looked totally different. This just tells you about FieldWatch as a technology company. We have, we have the apps, the apps that are sitting in front of you that you can see that are available on Android and iOS devices. They're very easy. They're free downloads. I mean, if you're an applicator, if you're a beekeeper, certainly the beekeeper one is very simple. Part of our plan this year, we're trying to figure out how we actually fund this, but we need to make some pretty major investments in the upgrade of these apps. They work today, they're functional, but we really can do so much more. As each of you know, you carry a mobile phone, maybe two, you have a tablet. I mean, it's with us all the time. And this really helps us stay connected. So as we evolve, these apps that are at the bottom there are really key for our success. And it hasn't been around forever because these came out about 5 or 6 years ago. Prior to that, everything was done on the computer. We support several browsers. We don't support Internet Explorer, so I hope nobody's using that anymore. But the other browsers we do support, you can see in the right-hand corner, that little dialog box. And then the other neat thing that has happened over the last several years, and one of the things that really affirm what we're doing today, is getting our information into the cab of whether it's somebody's flying or on the ground. And you'll see that little mapping screen there in that tractor. And it allows the person to spray know right there in real time if there's something near them so they can make a decision based on what they're spraying and where they're spraying. So I love this slide because it brings everything together in terms of our interface and our technology into agriculture. So this is something that is the same as last year. It's been the same for the last couple of years. We've just updated it with numbers in terms of who we serve, and how we work with them and what the key focus is. Certainly our genesis is with producers, with crop producers, and you'll see the tomatoes there and the number of growers of specialty crops. And that specialty crop list is quite expansive. That's all the specialty crops as defined by the USDA. So there's 40, maybe 50 crops that are out there. And we allow each state and province to define what's important to them. And we're not going to say that if somebody's in Tennessee, they're going to have the same crops that you do in Minnesota or you're going to have in Montana. We know that's not true. So we allow flexibility to define those crops that are within your state. And so they're a little bit different, each one. In 2018, we partnered up with the University of Arkansas. And we developed a tool called Crop Check. You don't see it on here now. It's because it's been blended in with FieldWatch. But what really drove that was the impact of dicamba in 2018 and the need to identify row crops, and specifically corn, soybeans, rice, and cotton. So this was a pilot because we weren't sure how successful it was going to be and whether anybody'd use it or not. So we wanted to be able to sever it if it didn't work. It worked. It worked beautifully. And we had great adoption in Arkansas. Then we expanded it. And then 2 years ago, we took that whole tool and merged it into FieldWatch. So now and today, if you grow crops, row crops, specialty crops, you can go into the same tool, have a user ID and map those. Whether you're growing tomatoes or non-GMO soybeans, you can map there. The 4 crops, the row crops that we entered in 2018 actually has a little drop down that you identify at a field level what information or what trait, whether it's glyphosate or glufosinate, whatever it is you're growing in that specific field. So we see that to continue to evolve. That tool is very stable, very solid. Not a lot of changes to it since crop check, but now you don't see the word crop check out there, but it's still the same tool. The data goes to the same place. And same thing for bee check. Bee check started actually in 2015. And prior to that, beekeepers were treated just as another crop producer. So it was part of a drop down in the map. But because of the needs of the beekeepers, a lot of beekeepers wanted to say they wanted to be able to move their hives around. They wanted to say that, I really don't have bees until June 1st or maybe earlier. So I needed start and stop dates different than crops. I would need some flexibility. And maybe some of the beekeepers were a little bit concerned about being on a public map. We get that question all the time. And we address it with, we understand there is a capability within BCheck that allows you to mark your location as private. So it's only seen by an applicator that's registered with us. That gives a lot more comfort to beekeepers that they're on the map. Because if they're not on the map, the obvious answer is nobody's ever going to see you. So I think they look at it from a perspective of, I think I'd rather be on the map than not, to help provide a little level of confidence that applicators know where I'm at. A couple of years after that, we introduced the app, which just helped blow the numbers out then, because it was so simple. You didn't have to go to your Chrome device and map it at your laptop or on your desktop. You could just use your phone. And since it was GPS enabled, you just drop that pin right where you're at and the beehive shows up. So it's fairly simple. And in fact, beehives that are moved to California today, that's how they're moved from outside California into California with that app. I'm gonna flip over to the far right side real quick. Seed field check. Again, this was a tool that was developed in collaboration with our partners in Iowa. And then specifically, the Iowa Aerial Applicators Association and the Iowa Seed Association worked with us to be able to map locations of workers in field. Some of you may recall in 2019, there was a drift incident where some young people, 40 or 50 of them, I don't know the exact details, there was a plane spraying nearby and it drifted onto the workers. Now, fortunately, nobody got terribly sick, but they did get affected. Some of them had to go get some medical treatment. But in order to address that issue and provide an additional level of worker protection, we always qualify by saying we are not a worker protection tool, but we provide a tool that helps with worker protection. We now identify seed field workers in 8 states, and it numbers up to, it's over 400,000 acres that we mapped last year alone. And we have about 4,500 fields that are mapped each year. And the partnership with the seed companies, they identify the locations, they activate them on a daily basis. Any given day during the summertime, when there's detasseling going on, we have 500 or 600 field locations that are active. And that information is streamed then, like electronically, to an aerial applicator. So I come back to the middle right there, the near middle, the field check. Field check is the repository or the portal for applicators. Not a registry, but it's a portal. So all the data from these 3 registries feed into that. So on one map, an applicator, and it can't get much easier than that for an applicator to look at this and see, are there workers there that I need to be concerned about? Are there grapevines nearby, beehives, whatever it may be? They can look at one map and discern what they're going to do in terms of, are they going to keep their same plan to spray or not? They may modify it. They may call a beekeeper. They may change the time of day, may modify what their mix is. But our tool is not one to dictate what you need to do. It just provides you information that you can make a decision on that. So it all feeds into the same repository. And we have been very happy that it's been very stable, especially in the summertime. We have thousands and thousands of changes going on from fields. Prior to that, everything was static. You put your vineyard on the map or your beehive, and it stayed there until you took it off or until it expired. Well, seed corn companies, they're moving that stuff all the time. Not moving the fields, but they're changing whether there's somebody there or not. So it has provided another level of comfort, not only to the seed companies, but to the aerial applicators to know they're there, and when they're not there, because they turn off the fields. So that's the big picture of what we do today and how we do it and who we serve. And here you can just see the growth. And the question that you can see on the left-hand side, the number of producers, year-over-year growth for the last several years. We had a little bit of an anomaly in 2023 where we had some duplicate entries. So really that number should be between 1.5 and 1.9 million acres. We don't know exactly, but there were some duplicates, some redundancy in there that we didn't catch. And so it still shows up in the repository, but it was test fields. It was a variety of things. So that 2023 number looks a little strange. We didn't lose acres. We just had too many duplicates. And we went through an extensive work to clean that up. But the message is the same for both of these charts. The growth is continuing in both of them. New producers every year, which includes beekeepers and crop producers. New acres being planted every year, whether it's seed corn or whether it's soybeans or new tomatoes, that type of thing. And so after we kind of figure out the exact number on that 2023, it'll look better than it does today in terms of the continued growth. So we expect 2025 not to be any different. As you can see the trend, nothing has changed. With the addition of Washington, of Texas, Georgia last year, and now with Manitoba, those numbers are going to continue to grow and skyrocket over the next 12 months to the next several months, actually. So we like to always use this slide in our presentations. This is the genesis of DriftWatch and FieldWatch. Red gold tomatoes in central Indiana, they were having significant impact. As you can see on the left-hand side, $750,000 or more each year of claims due to drift. And it wasn't anything intentional by an applicator, because tomatoes are grown in central Indiana, in southern Michigan, Western Ohio, and other parts of the United States. But that concentration is where Red Gold's 80 farms are. And each year, those tomato fields rotate. So it may be corn one year, maybe soybeans, tomatoes, and then something else rotates every 3 or 4 years. So as somebody was spraying, there just was not an awareness that those tomatoes were there that year. And like most specialty crops, they're really expensive. So the impact was significant. So we introduced, the tool FieldWatch. Red Gold required that their crop producers use it. And now you can see just that little graph from 2008, because prior to 2008, they had a lot of drift claims too, but we only highlight 3 years. So, but each year there are some drift claims, but not compared to what it used to be, because the farmers that grow tomatoes, they take a vested interest in knowing that they need to do this and share this information with their respective neighbors, whether it's a co-op or another neighbor, so they know there are tomatoes in that field each year. So there's drift. We can't say there's not. We never will say that, but we can say now that the impact is a lot less than it used to be, because sometimes they would lose lose all the fruit in the field for the year. And the impact on Red Gold was not only did they lose the crop for that year, but it impacted their production schedule, because everything is already scheduled for after the harvest starts, when those tomatoes are coming in. And if you don't, then you have this big burp in the schedule, and it's very costly. So, and as a quote down there from Kurt Utterbach, he's been a phenomenal partner of ours for several years. He is a farmer too. He farms for Red Gold, as well as he runs the agriculture area there. So we always like to highlight Red Gold as being key for our start of FieldWatch and then FieldWatch. And we would be remiss if we didn't actually highlight an organic producer also, not just organic, but certified organic. Thousands of acres in Montana, this family grows. What a great partner they've been the last several years in identifying and sharing their information. So within the tool itself, as most of you probably know, we identify crop types by organic or conventional. And we take organic a step farther by saying, if you're certified organic, you've gone through the process with USDA, with one of the certifiers, and you go in and mark your land as certified organic, you're obligated, because you can't move forward in the tool, to identify the certifying agency and your number, which if you're certified organic, you know that, and you input that data. And that then shows you're certified organic, which shows up as a different color on our map. So we do allow farmers to say they're organic, that's self-defined. But if you're certified organic, which has been another huge growth for us over the last several years, and actually organic growers, certified organics are really the easiest to convince, because they really want to share information, make sure people know what they're growing. We had a couple little anomalies there during the COVID time, where the numbers slipped a little bit. I think some of that could have been reporting and not really less acres, but we haven't spent time to try to figure it out. But as the quote down at the bottom, Ty O'Connor says, when somebody in Montana is going to spray from the air and they know they're certified organic, they take note of that and they work together. There's no other industry where people meet at the fence post and work together to share information and collaborate. They're not opponents. They're not working against. They're working together. So we're really excited that Ty shared this information and is willing to go out and promote and keep awareness, not just within the state of Montana, but elsewhere too. He's a great ambassador for us. So then, if you look at just specifically beekeepers, now you'll see that little anomaly again in 2023. We'll probably figure out how to clean that up one of these days, but at this point in time, the trend is exactly the same. It's going up each year in terms of number of beekeepers and number of hives each year that are actually out there. The numbers change. They fluctuate each year, but we see the number of beekeepers going up. We see the number of beehives going up. And I know there's still the same concern today with honeybees and other pollinators as there was several years ago. The effect on them from not just pesticides but mites and other things. So we believe in a small way, and we know pesticides isn't the only thing that affects bees, but this helps address maybe part of the situation. And if we can help save some bees from not being drifted on or having in a field that's recently sprayed, that's a win for us. A good day for FieldWatch is when the applicator calls the beekeeper because they have their contact information, and they tell them, I have a schedule to spray next week on Tuesday. When should I spray? What works with you? And if you're a beekeeper, you already know your bees. You know their habits. You know their routines. You know that they don't leave the hive till 8 o'clock. They're back by 5. So the beekeeper will often say, you know what? I'll shut down my hives. You do your work. Or they may say, if you spray early in the morning, late in the afternoon, we're all good. And that's part of the collaboration of the tool and the communications working together. So these numbers will continue to go up. There are a lot of bees in the state of Washington. There are a lot of bees in Canada. There are a lot of bees in Texas. So these numbers will go up continually year over year over the next several years in numbers of bees, beekeepers, as well as hives. So we always want to take an opportunity to do a little highlight with this too. And Jennifer Saruta from the University of Tennessee, a little shout out there for the volunteers. Professor down there and beekeeper. She's on our board, and she's been a great asset for us to keep us in the know and aware of beekeeping going on, and making sure that our tool is doing the right thing and is addressing the right issues for not just commercial beekeepers, but also urban beekeepers and suburban beekeepers and rural beekeepers across the board. If you look at the numbers that we have today in BeeCheck, of the beekeepers we have, probably 5%, 6% are commercial beekeepers, and the rest are hobbyists. When you look at the number of beehives, 80% of them are commercial hives versus 20% are from hobbyists and sideliner beekeepers. So we really don't know the exact count, urban versus suburban. We would guess that most of them are suburban and rural areas for beekeepers, but this guy on the bottom, Leonard Rao, he lives, that's a picture of his beehives in downtown Chicago. And it's crazy to think, just like Washington, D.C., there's a lot of forage there for bees flying around. And I know recently of being in Chicago, I did a little search with my app, and I found half dozen beehive locations right around the West Loop in Chicago. It was crazy. Now, they were probably still sealed up because it was in January, but they're all over the place in urban areas. So Leonard's been a great supporter of ours in the last couple of years too, and helping promote urban beekeeping in Chicago and elsewhere. And so we always like to do a little highlight for that. So when you think about the number of applicators, which is the key beneficiary of what we do, continued growth. We really wish we had a lot more. And we're trying to figure out how we can not just grow by 1,000 or 1,500 a year, but grow by thousands, 2,000 or 3,000. Because as an applicator registered with us, there's a couple of benefits. First and foremost, anytime there's anything new or modified in the system, you're going to be notified. We send you an email, you look at the email, and it has a link to what's new, whether it's a new beehive or a new crop or something's modified, you receive an email from us. The other issue is, or other feature for applicators registered with us, is when you have a beekeeper that has marked their hives as private, you will be able to see them. Now, we don't know exactly how many beehives are marked private. I mean, there could be hundreds, could be thousands, but as an applicator registered with FieldWatch, no charge. You can sign up, you walk through that little profile box and dialogue information. It takes a minute, 90 seconds maybe if you're an applicator, or you work in an organization, you have applicators. We encourage everybody to sign up and get an account. You can sign up on your phone. It's that easy. By the end of this presentation, you could have signed up if you want to. But this is probably one of the more important measurements for us to see continued growth and affirm that we are doing the right things. We have new applicators sign up each year. Early on, there was concern before we really did a lot of work in the early, like 2013, 14, 15, how many applicators would use this? Would we see any growth? And it kind of ties to what's on the map. Do we have crops on the map, beehives on the map? And as those numbers begin to expand and ultimately explode, we had people signing up. Between Kurt and I, we spend a lot of time in meetings, conferences, both in person and virtually with applicators, updating them on the latest, as well as encouraging them to sign up or have an account with us because of the reasons I just mentioned. And this can't make it any easier for anybody to use our tool than these software partners that we have today. This has been one of the biggest success stories that we've had in the last 10 years, is building these relationships with these software companies and getting tied to them directly from our database into their database through a tool called an API. It's an online sync up tool, no different than if you go and look at your banking information today, you sync up with whatever software you have. That's exactly how they do it today. They pull the data, they layer it on the map. And we have some great partners on there. And there's a handful more that we're looking to add that actually have systems today where they are working, they have work orders, they have mapping systems, they help with spray logistics. A handful of these work primarily with aerial applicators and seed field check, but this alone has helped magnify our reach. We say 30,000 at the bottom. We believe it's a lot more than that. We just don't have a really good way of measuring that because when you look at number of applicators we have today, about 16,000, and you look at each of these software tools and the reach they have to their clients, a lot of them just give it away free to their clients. Some of them have it part of a package. To us, it really doesn't matter. As long as they're pulling in our data and they're sharing that with their clients and their clients are using it, it's the best thing we could have. If you're an aerial pilot today, everybody has a map in their cockpit today, and all of them have one of these mapping systems, and they all look at their work orders and what they're going to do for the day, and then they can toggle on and off where the people are, where the pollinators are, where the sensitive or specialty crops are. So we know that not all vehicles on the ground have it, but we know all the aerial applicators are using a tool. So therein lies part of our opportunity to help continue to grow this relationship with all of these. But in the last 10 years, this alone has helped grow the numbers and the need for our tool, and really to affirm that we need to continue in this direction as a technology team. And speaking of a couple of our key partners here, MFA based in Missouri, we really appreciate their support. They not only work in Missouri, but the surrounding states. They have several hundred of their applicators registered today, providing a complete set of services to all of their clients. So they use our tool within their respective precision mapping tool and help communicate and get the information out. And as Doug says right there, I mean, we started this relationship probably 5 or 6 years ago. It's just about partnering and stewardship. They believe what we're doing is a good thing. We believe what they're doing is a good thing. It's a win-win. And that's the great thing about agriculture. You can develop these relationships, and it's not a threatening thing or not, you have to do this. There's no consequences. We work together. We provide them information. They can make decisions, and they help us throughout the state of Missouri and the surrounding states at their respective retail locations with their farmers, with their applicators. So they've been a sponsoring member for several years, and it's been a wonderful thing. We always ask, are you getting complaints about us? You getting complaints from the respective farmers? And they're not. Of course, we'd like to believe that's all us. We know it's not, but we are part of the solution, and that's as good as it gets for us. Another great partner. Now this one is a This is a nationwide partner. So not only do we have Growmark in the Midwest, but out east, out west, across the United States. And we're very fortunate that that Jeff Bunting, who represents our crop protection area, is on our board, has been our board chair for a few years, and does a phenomenal job giving guidance to us and to the board itself into what we're doing. We couldn't do this alone, and the representation of the board across all the different segments across the United States. We have board members out east, North Carolina, and Virginia. We have them out west in California. In Iowa, we have them across the United States, in Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia. So in the Midwest, that helps support what we do as a North American or a nationwide resource for farmers. And Growmark certainly is well positioned across all those to help us. They are right in the middle of a lot of the conversations that we're having today, whether it has to do with, spray drift, whether it has to do with communicating with your neighbors. Conversations now evolved to include endangered species. There's a lot of things that are going on today that FieldWatch is in conversation today as well as in the future. So we're very fortunate to have great leadership from Jeff as well as the rest of the board with us today. And their partnership goes back several years, when originally it was just some of the FS companies, and it's grown to the whole organization. And rounding this up, seed field check, and you can see when we started this in 2020, we had 6,000 acres and about 500 fields. Another partnership that I mentioned earlier with the Iowa Seed Association, aerial applicators, but we've seen growth now year over year. It's now over 400,000 acres across just 8 states of seed corn, and the number of fields we have on any given day in July, it could be June, could be August a little bit. We have 600 or 700 fields across the Midwest that have workers in them. And just think about that. That's a big number. That's a lot of people working out there in a field. Why we know it is because the seed company has gone into the system and turned that field on, and it becomes a different color, and you can actually see it as an aerial applicator. If there's no workers there, you don't see it. It's blank. So you don't even know the field is there. That way we can just reassure the aerial applicator that it's real data. Because if they were both on there, the non-working and working field, it could cause a lot of confusion. So we share that information. It's usually done the day before, where the seed company will go in. We partner with 7 or 8 seed companies here in the Midwest, and they go in and activate that field for the next day, and it shows up on the map for the aerial applicator. And this happens in near real time. This tool is used really where there's a lot of workers in the field. If there's just 1 or 2 out there doing some research or doing something out there, they're pretty spry. They can get out of the field. But when you have a large group of 40 to 50 young people, they don't move as fast. And that's why this tool was developed, is to be able to give them some reassurance that nobody's going to fly probably nearby or even close to that field for the hours they're in. The other obligation for the seed company is really, once they're gone, they go in and turn that field off. As an aerial applicator, they're working from sun up to sundown in the summertime. I mean, they cover a lot of acres, a lot of time, and they need the time to spray for whatever they're spraying, whether it's pest or it's a fungicide on those fields. So if they can carve out an extra couple of hours, that's a win-win. This has been one of the best things we've done in the last several years. It was a pretty big lift for us up front because, as I mentioned, previously fields were static. There was no on and off. These get turned on and off on a daily basis for several days or several weeks. It's been a great success story. Goes back to the partnership, no different than we did in Arkansas, no different than we did with the beekeepers. And here's a highlight of one of them. Beck's Hybrids, using our tool as one of the seed companies. They're very happy to share There are seed company locations with the aerial applicators. And the other interesting thing with this tool was that each individual seed company may only know their applicators. They don't know the other ones potentially. So with this tool, it gets shared with all of them. And so they didn't have to try to figure out, they didn't have to send text messages or call people or email or send maps. It was all consolidated into one tool, into Seed Field Check. And those applicators, no different than they would see beehives, they would see the seed corn fields and whether there's workers in them. So Jason's been a great partner with us there at Beck's Hybrids, and we appreciate the work they've done. And they have also Brad Fruth, as part of Beck's, is on our board to help support and give us some guidance on what we do, not just for this, but across the board. As we round out, AgriSmart with Flight Plan Online as their tool, they're one of the larger organizations, software organizations, and they have a lot of pilots using their tool today. So they pull our data in, it's on their map, and in near real time, that aerial applicator knows. Kevin Britton from AgriSmart has been phenomenal to work with over the last several years. He has been very supportive, always stays on top of things, always asking if something has changed, because he sees the changes in our system. And they work across the United States, but they're one of our key partners on the software side, and specifically they have a ground application, but a lot of their work is done in the air. And then rounding it out, EverAg, formerly EFC, another partner of ours, pulling in our data for their respective retailers that use it today. Ben Sloan has been there for a while now as a partner, and they've gone through some changes. But they have a precision ag tool that's used across the United States, which helps us as we reach across the United States too, not only the states that we operate in today, but other ones. So they've been good to help, create awareness in areas that we're not, or with retailers that we don't have a relationship with. But EverAg has definitely been solid for us. And we love their approach, and they're always trying to do something new or keep things updated. They're very technically savvy and do a great job pulling in the data and sharing it with their respective clients. Get down to the final slide, and I would be remiss again if I didn't say thank you again for your partnership, for your support, financial support. You can see our reach goes not just to the extension service, or not just with farmers, but it goes across agriculture. Some we have bigger relationships with others, but all of them we have a relationship. Our members not only include the chemical companies as sponsors, but licensees, the applicators, the state and provincial governments, and growers. So all those are members, and we like to believe, with information like we have today, that this is a positive, and look for continued support. As you continue to look at protecting pollinators, concerns about people in fields and specialty crops, we believe that we are in a unique position to continue to provide that awareness, and can provide a tool that's free and it's voluntary. And you can't find very many tools out there like that today that you can just go and use and see an impact on a short-term basis. So with that, thank you for your time and attention this afternoon. I think we had between 50 and 60 people registered today. This is about as easy it gets. If you are so inclined to pull out your phone and scan that QR code, it'll take you to a survey. If that survey takes a minute, you've spent too much time on it. It's pretty simple. We don't need a lot of data. We just like to have people affirm that it was useful. And more importantly, if there's something we can do better or different, we really need to know that. That's how we've evolved. That's our success over the last several years, is really getting feedback. That's how we develop new features. That's how we build new relationships, is by input. So we don't take it as a bad thing. We take it as a step forward to build a new relationship and build on what we've done today. So I appreciate all your time